I'm going to spend some time tonight with Lee Richardson, founder and clinical director of the Brain Performance Center based in Dallas. And their website is their name, thebrainperformancecenter.com. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for having me.
This time of year is a problem, I guess, for a lot of people. It's supposed to, of course, be the time of happiness and togetherness and gift giving and receiving, and for many people, it's the very peak of the year. What is it that makes it the opposite for others?
Well, we hear all the time it's the happiest time of the year. It's the most wonderful time of the year. And for some people it is, and for some people it's not. I had a client tell me just last Friday, I like my life. I love my life. The holiday messes everything up. I have to figure out how I'm going to take care of my family. I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to take care of my husband's family. And, it just can almost become overwhelming.
Nonetheless, I mean, it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, isn't there a certain level of the optional for most people? I mean, if it really is that overwhelming, do people feel that they are obligated to do all of the socializing that they're supposed to do? I mean, it would seem to me that for most reasonable people, there's nothing wrong with simply saying, I'm not up to it this year. I'm going to do part of it, but not most of it. That maybe I just don't succumb to peer pressure, but it always struck me that was always an option.
Well, it is, and it's like everything else. Where does most of our stress come from? It comes from within. We're instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I can't get it all done, and instead of feeling like you're pulled in all these different directions, people just need to take a moment and slow down, and make a plan. And I always say, plan as early as you can about what you will do during the holidays. And then you have something to look forward to, and it gives you a greater sense of control. I'm in control of this. I'll do this when I can on my schedule. One of my first Christmas memories with my kids was Dr. Seuss, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. And in that book, I'll never forget, maybe Christmas doesn't come from a store. Maybe it's something a little more. And I think we tend to lose sight of that.
Is the consumerist aspect of Christmas part of this problem?
I think it very much is. I mean, the minute that Halloween is over, we start hearing Christmas music on the radio. We start seeing the ads for the latest, the best toys, the latest electronic gadgets, and it pushes us. And we think that, there are some people that take great pleasure in finding the best gift. And there are other people that set very high standards on what their gifts should be. And I think that certainly the commercial world feeds that for us. The holiday season is not a marathon. It is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You need to take your time. You need to pace yourself. And you said it yourself. You can say no. And sometimes people have a really hard time doing it. And I would recommend practice. Stand in front of a mirror and practice saying no without guilt.
It seems easy enough, doesn't it, folks? As I say, I try not to be insensitive about this, simply by virtue of the fact that I've always been one who could say no to peer pressure. I don't know why necessarily. It may make me arrogant and aloof to some, I suppose, but I have to say that on balance, I believe my life has been a whole lot better by virtue of that. Now then, what part of the problems that we see around Christmas time, Lee Richardson, are connected to money? That may be related to, but not entirely the same as the consumerism aspect of it. To what extent are people already anticipating the bills that'll come due in January?
Well, I saw a study, and the study said that 45% of Americans would prefer to skip Christmas. And the primary reason why was the financial drain. That, they're saying to themselves already, I can't afford this. Beginning in September, maybe even August, that's when all the magazine ads start, with the holiday tables. And you start thinking about it, and it's so easy to overspend. And once you start that overspending, you don't know how to stop. And I know for some people, setting a budget and avoiding the temptation, this is what I have and this is what I'm going to spend. For some people, that's easy, and for some people, that's not. To some people, drawing names from a hat, getting a group of people together and saying, let's all draw a name. That's a very comfortable thing, but for some people, it's not. And, the holidays can be, as the years go on, we have family members. Every year is a different Christmas. And maybe someone in your family has died, or a divorce in your family, or you have new members in your family. But it's a new challenge. How do you go from a family of having 2 kids, and now you're a blended family and you have 5 kids. And how do you deal with that? And the financial aspect of it is very important.
To what extent are we talking about people who have problems other times of the year, and the holiday merely exacerbates the problem? In other words, they're troubled to begin with.
Well, I think you hit on a good point. There are people that do suffer from anxiety and depression throughout the year. And when you throw the holidays on top of that, that really just takes it up an even higher notch. And for those, it can become overwhelming, and it sometimes causes illness.
These can manifest in not just in irritability or a negative attitude, but actual physical symptoms.
Absolutely. You got to think about it. The brain, everything you do, you don't do, how well you do it, how you feel, the brain controls that. And when that brain gets in a dysregulated state, that throws that body, that autonomic nervous system, into a dysregulated state. You can feel nauseous. You can feel dizzy. Your hands can get really cold or really sweaty. Your heart can start beating really, really fast. And this is a true statistic. 65% of the calls that go into 911, people saying, I'm having a heart attack. I'm having a heart attack. They're not. They're having a panic attack.
Oh, my. Well, now, it would be easy, I suppose, to say, okay, Aunt Millie or whoever, we're really sorry that the holiday stresses you so much. You don't have to come to our house. But, of course, that sounds like you're rejecting them. If, on the other hand, you say, come to our house and we'll make you feel better, are you making things worse? I'm not sure how someone, if you spot this tendency, I'm not sure what you're supposed to do or say.
Well, it's a fine line, You don't want to offend somebody. You don't want to exclude somebody. And you don't want to make somebody feel obligated that they have to come. And I think what you have to do is really think about the environment and choose the people that are comfortable spending time in your environment. Some people have a hard time on Christmas Day with 7 or 8 kids under the age of 10 running around screaming. And I can remember those days where it was all I could do was to maintain that.
Yeah. We're going to have to pause on that note. We're going to come back with more from our guest, Lee Richardson, from thebrainperformancecenter.com. Back in a moment.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Yes, it is a wonderful time for most of us, and for others, I guess, not so much. If that actually depressed you, our apologies, but that's always been one of my favorite Christmas songs, and we just had to put it out there because the theme of the song is exactly what we're talking about tonight with Lee Richardson, founder and clinical director of the Brain Performance Center in Dallas, online at their name, thebrainperformancecenter.com. Now, there have been surveys. One by the American Psychological Association uncovered some interesting data about the holiday blues. 38% of people surveyed said their stress level increased during the holiday season, with participants listing the top stressors: lack of time, lack of money, commercialism, the pressures of gift giving, and family gathering. Surprisingly, 56% of the respondents reported they experienced the most amount of stress at work. Only 29% experienced greater amounts of stress at home. And Lee Richardson, I'm curious, your thoughts about the results of that survey.
Well, I think, stress, work does produce a lot of stress for most people, or school. If you're a student at school, if you're a professional, it's work. And I think it's because for some of us, we work on a calendar year, and so numbers are rolling in, and we're having to realize that maybe we haven't accomplished anything this year that we had planned on accomplishing. And on a personal level, maybe you didn't lose the weight, but at work, maybe you didn't get that promotion, or maybe you didn't get the additional resources that you thought you were going to get. So the end of the year can be a stressful year. And then we also have, in December, the days get shorter and we have a lot more darkness. A lot of people are affected by the seasonal affective disorder. So there's a lot going on at the end of the year other than just the holiday stress.
I want to come back to the seasonal affective disorder. But looking at, of course, the end of the year situation, to me, I always look at that as, well, I didn't do this and didn't do that and didn't lose the weight and whatever. But here comes the new year. The calendrical odometer is going to flip over a new digit. And we get to go back to zero again, even though I know that by February I will have squandered the opportunity again. For me, the end of the year is not so much a reminder of failure as it is the promise of one more try. Maybe I'm just a born rationalizer, Lee. I don't know.
Well, I agree with you. I tend to look at it as opportunity and a fresh start and a new beginning and an opportunity to do better what I didn't do last year.
Now then, tell me more about seasonal affective disorder. I hear about this, and I will take it as a given that it's the result of serious scientific inquiries and that there's something to it. But I've never really felt that by virtue of the fact that it's darker out earlier that this is a bad time of year or a depressive time of year. I mean, okay, so it's dark out. I mean, I just consciously, at the conscious level, this does not affect me. I'm wondering if it's affecting me subconsciously, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I do know that a lot of people it does affect. I mean, think about those people in Norway. Oh, my gosh. They go through a period of time where there's very little light. And they I understand, have established a tradition where you just get under a blanket and drink tea and gather as a family. But not everybody reacts that way. I know that there are certain light bulbs that you can get. And, by sitting in a certain amount of light during the day can kind of give you that sunshine, give you that vitamin D. There's a lot of research that's linking vitamin D or lack of vitamin D to depression.
Interesting thought. Hadn't even gone down that road. 1-866-50-JIMBO, our number. 1-866-505-4626. And if we're touching a nerve with you, give us a call. Have a chat with our guest, Lee Richardson, the founder and clinical director at thebrainperformancecenter.com. And perhaps you know somebody who fits the bill here. Now, we touched on this a moment ago, but again, I'm not sure exactly what is the best approach for these people. If I see someone and they're down, and maybe I've known them for a long time, and it happens every year at this time, do I embrace them and smother them with enough togetherness to make them more depressed, or do I let them off the social hook, as it were, and in essence reject them? As I say, I'm still not sure exactly what I can do.
Well, I think what you can do is reach out and just offer some support and some companionship, say, I sense that this is a hard time of the year for you, and encourage them to communicate how they feel and what can I do to help you? How can I support you get through this time of the year? And, some people really appreciate that reach out. And some people really appreciate the fact that it's okay. You're saying it's okay that this is a hard time of the year for you. So what I would encourage everyone to do is to really acknowledge feelings. Because you know what? You can't force yourself to be happy. It just doesn't happen. And if you sense that somebody is going through a really unhappy time, just by reaching out and saying, gee, is there anything I can do to make this a little bit easier time of the year for you? You never know what that could do.
There you go. More to come. 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626 with Lee Richardson from the Brain Performance Center, and we'll be back in just a moment. Many do, no question about it. Thank you, King. Appreciate it. 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626 with Lee Richardson, the founder and the clinical director of the Brain Performance Center.com. What exactly do you do there? I suppose the name is somewhat descriptive, but perhaps for lay people a further explanation would be helpful.
Well, what we do is we take an integrative approach to creating brain health. And as I mentioned before, everything you do, you don't do, how well you do it, that all depends on how that brain is working. So we use psychotherapy. We use the various neuromodulation and neurofeedback techniques that teach the brain how to get into a regulated state. We're not asking the brain to do anything it doesn't want to do. That brain wants that equilibrium. It wants that homeostasis.
If somebody goes to the brainperformancecenter.com or shows up at the door there in Dallas, and they say, okay, make me happy, or show me how to make myself happy. Can you do that?
Well, what I can do is I can see what's going on inside that brain. I'll put a cap on their head. I'll do a quantitative EEG, and I'll record those brain waves, eyes open and eyes closed. And I'll go through and I'll pull out the good stuff. I'll take out the eye blinks and the jaw tension, and I'll take the good data, and I'll compare that to a normative database. And that will show me how the brain is regulating the power. Are you getting too much slow wave? Is that why you're unhappy? Are you not getting enough calm processing power? Is your brain oversharing information? Is the timing too fast or too slow? Because all of those things impact your emotional regulation and your cognitive regulation.
There is an attitude in some parts of our society, more prevalent in some than others. Pop a pill. When in doubt, pop a pill. Hey, you're not feeling well? Well, here, this will make you feel happier. Pop a pill. And again, sometimes that is aided and abetted by the medical profession. Not always. But I think it's a tendency that is probably vastly overdone. I'm curious your thoughts.
Ditto. I'll have to contain myself here because medication has never worked for me on a personal level. So it's never been my first line of treatment. I see amazing negative side effects from medication. When people come in and they'll say, I couldn't focus or I was so sad, I started taking this and then I got this side effect, but that's okay because now I'm taking this and this to combat this. And it just turns into a big mess.
Is this a time of year that's, shall we say, big for your center? I know, for example, there are many endeavors which are very big in the holiday period. I think jewelry stores do something like 20% of their annual business during the month of December. Is this a big time for the BrainPerformanceCenter.com?
Well, certainly we offer complimentary consultations, and I can tell you in the last 2 weeks the number of consultations I'm doing has shot up. And sometimes those people will push forward and we'll move forward and get treatment. And sometimes they're just, they're just caught in a moment of desperation and they're reaching out. This time of the year certainly does put a highlight on how we're doing because you walk into a grocery store and you're hearing all this happy music and all these bright lights. These Christmas trees are decorated. And, it can put you into a hyper-aroused state For someone that has sensory issues, wow, that can knock you to the moon and back. So there's just a lot more going on.
Is age at all a factor here? The very young, the very old, or any other particular age group particularly susceptible to being down in the dumps this time of year?
No, age really isn't, I'm sorry to say. I am absolutely amazed at the number of children that come in with anxiety. I'm amazed. I've had an 8-year-old come in and say, Miss Lee, I've got to tell you something. Okay, man, what's up? Well, I'm bipolar. You're too young to be bipolar. You can't be bipolar. You know, why do you think that? Well, my sister, we took this test on the internet. I mean, it's universal. You're not, age doesn't protect you.
Fair enough. More to come. Stay with us. And we may be talking to some of you in particular. If so, our number is 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Time of the year, I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer. Have a holly jolly Christmas, and when you walk down the street, say hello to friends you know and everyone you meet.
Welcome back to the Jim Bohannon Show at 1-866-50-JIMBO, 1-866-505-4626. Burr Lives are so cheerful, so terminally cheerful. All right, and there's nothing wrong with that, but for some, this time of year, it rubs them the wrong way. And among those in a position to do something about it, Lee Richardson, the founder and clinical director of the Brain Performance Center in Dallas, to look at the problems that come up this time of year. You make note of getting rid of what you call the holiday have-tos. That's, I suppose, easier said than done. Many people take the activities of this time of year, particularly if you're hosting something, to be an absolute obligation. It's cast in concrete, chiseled in marble.
Absolutely. And, you know, they start thinking that it's got to be better than last year. You know, it's got to be better than last year. And you think about, well, if I do this, then I have to do this, and I have to do this. And, you know, I always say those shoulds, those shoulda, woulda, couldas, they'll kill you. How many times have you tried to motivate yourself with, I should do that? It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. You know, the have-tos, when I tell people when you're feeling the have-to problem, you need to take write it down on paper, what's a must and what's a want, and separate the two, because you don't have to do everything on the must and the want list.
That's something to keep in mind, folks. I mean, seriously, you don't really have to. You know, we need to rethink our definition of what is a have to kind of situation. Does this get better for people after what I call the silly season is over? That is to say, January 2nd. Is it back to normal, or is there a certain holiday hangover for these folks?
I think that for those folks there is a holiday hangover, because then you're faced with, you feel guilty, or you feel like Christmas certainly wasn't what it was for everybody else. So, you know, I'm starting a new year, and what am I thankful for? What am I grateful for? Well, Christmas kind of was blah. Christmas wasn't there. So I think that it does kind of get you kind of spin in that grief. You're grieving what didn't happen, or it didn't happen as well as you would have liked it to. And I think one of the most important things that people can do to not let that happen is to really take care of themselves. You know, make some time for yourself. A lot of people in November, they're exercising, they're eating more healthy, they're taking a 15-minute walk, they're thinking about listening to some nice, you know, soothing music. But things get so crazy and they get so caught up in the race that they quit doing that. And I would say, don't abandon your healthy habits. If you do one thing, take some time for yourself. And I think when you do that, you can kind of help prevent that hangover.
Well, that's a thought. Time for yourself. I mean, you're being generous to everybody else. Be generous to yourself. I hadn't thought of it put quite in those terms. And does this go as far as giving yourself a Christmas present? I mean, wrapping something up and actually putting it under the tree and opening it?
You know what? I think that could be a really good idea. Because sometimes, if you don't take care of yourself, can you take care of anybody else? And my answer is no. So I think sometimes you do. If get yourself a little something special, put a bow on it, stay within budget, don't get into financial stress over it, but certainly acknowledge that you're important.
Fair enough. So keep that in mind, folks. I mean, let's face it. It doesn't have to be a depressing time of year, and at the very least, you can minimize the problem if you listen to some of the tips from our guest, Lee Richardson, founder and clinical director of thebrainperformancecenter.com, and try to avoid some of the problems that come from stress, lack of time, lack of money, the usual stuff there, all right? Stay tuned. More to come hereabouts from yours truly, Jim Bohannon.